At exactly 12:25 a.m., the Primorsk oil port on the Baltic coast sat under a thin layer of fog. The night was calm, almost unnaturally still. Two massive Aframax-class tankers waited at the loading terminal, their steel hulls glowing faintly under the dock lights. Nothing suggested that this quiet night was seconds away from chaos. Hundreds of kilometers to the south, a Russian Nebo-M long-range radar picked up something unusual. More than 70 small contacts appeared at once. Too many, too coordinated, too sudden. A moment later, the 91N6E Big Bird radar of the S-400 system confirmed it. A scattered swarm was approaching from multiple directions. Operators stared at their screens in confusion. None of the patterns matched anything they had trained for. For a brief moment, some of them wondered if the system had malfunctioned, because nothing in their manuals predicted this kind of movement. That uncertainty, that tiny pause, would cost them more than they realized. Months earlier, inside a locked room in Kiev, Ukrainian planners had outlined this exact moment. The target was nearly 1,000 kilometers away, shielded by layers of Russian defenses. To reach it, Ukraine would need to overwhelm, distract, and mislead an entire regional air defense network. Not with force, but with timing and deception. The strategy wasn't born from desperation, but from precision, testing how long Russia could handle chaos before making the wrong decision. As the swarm advanced, Russian defenses activated. The 92 N6E gravestone engagement radars tried to lock onto the moving contacts. Pantsir-S1 units opened up, spraying tracer fire across the sky. On the ground, a young Russian operator hesitated for a split second as his screen filled with dozens of blinking targets. He swallowed hard, reminded himself to breathe, and began marking them for intercept. His senior officer barked orders behind him, but nothing made the situation clearer. Everything was moving too fast, like trying to catch shadows in a storm. But what he was seeing wasn't an attack, it was choreography. Ukraine had divided the swarm into calculated waves. Dozens of decoy drones moved towards Zelotsk, Tosnau, Pakhovskoye, Usmino, and deep into the districts around St. Petersburg. Every route was chosen to drag S-400 launchers and Pantsir batteries away from Primorsk. The goal wasn't destruction, it was misdirection on a scale Russia hadn't faced before. The sheer number of targets forced multiple command posts to make instant decisions, often contradicting one another. For minutes, the entire defense network spun in different directions, unable to decide which threat mattered most. Inside a bunker in Gachinsky, another Russian officer watched the last false target fade off his radar. Exhaustion crept in. He tapped his headset and calmly reported, "Sector clear. All targets destroyed." He believed it, his seniors believed it, and that belief set the stage for the disaster to come. Among the 70-plus drones Ukraine had launched, 35 were AQ-400 Scythe decoys, cheap, fast, and meant to die. The other 40 were the real threat. At their center were 15 UJ-26 Bober-ER long-range strike drones, each capable of flying a 1,000-kilometer one-way mission with a 40-kilogram warhead. Flying beside them were modified electronic warfare aircraft known as Banshee 7. Instead of explosives, they carried jamming equipment built to blind Russian targeting systems at critical moments. These aircraft didn't look dangerous at first glance, but they were the quiet manipulators in the shadows, the ones turning Russia's eyes away at the worst possible moment. Just after midnight, the drones lifted off from hidden sites and began their long journey. They flew low, hugging tree lines and riverbeds. They used preloaded routes and maintained radio silence. Along the way, some went down. Engines failed, wings snapped, navigation slipped. But Ukraine had planned for losses. Only a handful needed to reach Russia for the plan to work. When the swarm crossed the border, Russia's air defense grid lit up like a Christmas tree. The Big Bird radar instantly focused on the densest cluster, the Decoy Scythes near St. Petersburg. S-400 batteries launched expensive long-range missiles one after another. In minutes, the Scythes were gone. but every destroyed decoy pulled Russian attention further away from Primorsk. Meanwhile, the real strike wave moved silently through Leningrad Oblast. Near Volosovsky, a Pantsir-S1 radar locked onto a low-flying Bober ER. The operator exhaled in relief. Finally, a clear target. His finger hovered over the launch key, but then a nearby Banshee 7 drone released a tight burst of jamming energy. His screen flickered, the lock vanished, the radar froze. He cursed under his breath and fired 2 missiles blindly, but the Bober ER dipped under the trees and disappeared. This happened again and again. Russian systems were powerful, but Ukraine didn't need to defeat them, only to slip past them. By sunrise, dozens of drones had crashed. Every decoy near St. Petersburg had been destroyed, but the operation had succeeded. A narrow blind corridor now led straight to Primorsk. 7 surviving UJ-26 Bober ER drones followed it toward the coast. In their control stations, Ukrainian operators watched their screens in near silence. One of them paused for a moment, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Just a few more minutes." After hours of tension, they were now guiding the final approach. Another operator rubbed his face with both hands, steadying himself, knowing these last seconds were the true test of the mission. When the Panzer battery at Primorsk finally detected them, it was too late. 7 tiny blips appeared inside lethal range. The operator launched 57 E-6 missiles, but the drones were flying. Too low and weaving too sharply for clean intercepts. The last line of defense had seconds left, and then none. The Bober ER drones split into 2 teams. 3 drones dropped toward the pumping station. One was intercepted mid-air, exploding in a flash. The other 2 hit their targets. The first slammed into the control building, a shockwave tearing through its support structure. The second drone struck the pipeline manifold, rupturing the heart of the port's pumping system. The remaining 4 raced toward the Aframax tankers, Kapitan Lob and Sergey Gorshkov. One drone hit the Kapitan Lob just below the bridge, knocking out all electronics. Another struck the cargo tank, unleashing a violent blaze. 2 more drones hit the Sergey Gorshkov, one plunging into the engine room, the other smashing into the loading manifold. Nearby, 4 additional drones hit 2 more tankers, Kusto and Kailun, both tied to Russia's Shadow Fleet. Each ship carried nearly 700,000 barrels of crude. When the drones struck, both tankers erupted into colossal towers of flame visible for miles. Shockwaves rolled across the bay, rattling windows and peeling steel plates like paper. Within minutes, Primorsk transformed from a quiet terminal into a roaring inferno. Black smoke spiraled into the sky, so thick and high that satellites captured it almost immediately. 42 seconds after the first hit, secondary explosions ripped through the docks. Automatic systems tried to shut down the port, but the electrical core was already gone. Fuel spilled from torn pipes, feeding the flames that carved through the infrastructure. By morning, Russia claimed it had shot down 221 drones nationwide, but satellite imagery revealed the truth. Multiple tankers burning, a pumping station destroyed, ruined loading systems, and billions of dollars in damage. Primorsk handled nearly 20% of Russia's seaborne oil exports, around $15 billion a year. The shutdown meant daily losses of $70 to $80 million. Across the region, chaos spread. St. Petersburg's Pulkovo Airport activated emergency protocols as debris from overnight interceptions confused radar tracks. 11 flights diverted. Operators spent hours chasing ghost signals created by the decoys, long after the real strike had already finished. The operation revealed 3 things. First, Ukraine had found a way to push drone range far beyond expectations. Second, they had discovered how to mislead even Russia's most advanced radar networks through saturation and deception. And third, the S-400, long promoted as an impenetrable shield, could be outmaneuvered through low-altitude flying, horizon masking, and precise electronic jamming. But beyond the technology, this mission proved something far more important. It showed that in modern warfare, victory doesn't always belong to the side with the bigger arsenal. Sometimes it belongs to the side that can make the enemy look the wrong way, for just long enough. And on this night, across 1,000 kilometers of sky, that single moment changed everything. Thank you for watching.